Have you ever found yourself at a roadblock with Dungeons and Dragons? Maybe you've thought about becoming a dungeon master or a game master, and you're not really sure what that entails. Or maybe even you've thought about what class may be the strongest and why they are the strongest.
And maybe you've played every class of Dungeons and Dragons, but you haven't played every subclass and you've overlooked some. Or maybe that new interesting character that you've daydreamed about for weeks isn't as fun to play in game. Here at Theoretical Insights of D&D, me and Rob are going to be discussing some insights and theories of Dungeons and Dragons. So let's get ready
And roll for insight.
I'm Jeremiah,
And I'm Rob.
and today's a little bit unique. We've got two special guests with us. We have Eric and Michael with us, two seasoned players of D&D. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. I wouldn't call us seasoned, or not me.
You're a Cajun seasoned, you know.
Cajun, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm more like a pack of old jerky.
He's more seasoned. Before we'd like to get into this, Eric, would you like to describe your favorite character or one of your favorite characters you've played in any edition of D&D? Anyone that comes to the top of your mind?
Well, I've only played since 5e, and I was always either a druid or a cleric, but the artificer has quickly become my favorite class.
It's a good class. It definitely is.
It's really fun. It's a lot mixed into one.
Yeah. You're playing Artificer now, right?
Yeah, they play the armor, the arcane armor.
Yeah. Michael, what about you? You got a favorite character or one of a favorite character?
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to play in several campaigns and a fairly broad range of characters. I would guess one of the most satisfying to play was a cleric of Sarenrae in a kind of undead-focused campaign. It was just so fun to turn undead and have my radiant lights spread out and just, kind of like in one of your favorite kind of movies where the zombies just fall.
Oh yeah,
and that was always good. Unfortunately, it wasn't as effective against the higher level undead, which we eventually worked our way up to. But it was kind of fun to kind of just mow through the chaff at the lower levels.
Oh yeah, it's always fun to burst through some cannon fodder, pretty much. You both mentioned cleric and artificer. We're going to be talking about a different class today. We're going to be talking about the fire subclasses, breaking down the subclasses in Xanathar's guide. What's their appeal, what's the uniqueness to them, the advantages and disadvantages of them, and how easy they are to play.
Yeah, because in the last episode we covered Champion, the Battle Master, and the Eldritch Knight, all available in the Player's Handbook. And with more information coming out and the imagination that Wizards of the Coast has in giving these new subclasses to the classes that are available now.
And will be giving potentially in the future.
Yeah, the versatility of not only the fighter, but of every class, in which we'll eventually cover in the future, is just being expanded upon time and time again.
Yeah. So let's kind of jump into it. We did a little bit of research on the subclasses. Let's hit that Arcane Archer. And when I first see this class, the first character that comes to my mind is Hawkeye, with all these different trick arrows, doing different effects. What is your guys' opinion on the Arcane Archer? Is it complicated? Is it useful? Should they just play a ranger? What's your thoughts?
I think realistically, and this has been an idea that's been around for a long time, is that sometimes it's best to have a fighter over a ranger. And in this instance, while they don't get the hunter's mark that the ranger would have available to them, I think the Arcane Archer would be a good addition into a party in which you really have to, I think, almost build the party around them. because they are, from looking at everything in Xanathar's, slightly complicated, probably equal to a ranged version of the Battle Master that we covered in the last episode. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to keep up with. But if done correctly and if played correctly, it could be an extremely well-versed ally or player character to go through a campaign with.
It's got to have some serious team synergy.
It really does. Michael, what's your thoughts on it?
I think this subclass in particular really enhances the already powerful abilities of a fighter. I mean, your frontline guy who normally sits there and sword and board and just bashes stuff now has become a ranged powerhouse, and because of the abilities you can pick, it brings in aspects of magic users, clerics, even bards. I mean, each one of the different abilities is almost like a spell-like ability based on the saving throws that they get. Banishing arrow. I mean, come on, it doesn't send it away forever. But if you've got, say, some kind of a extra-dimensional creature that has an effect that's going on, and you literally send it away for a round, that gives you an entire round for everybody to get out of their fear, to heal back up, to basically rally like the Avengers and come back and kick, Thanos' ass or something like that. I mean, it could save the entire session.
And that's going into just almost tying it into the Battle Master, because the Battle Master, being that upfront, close, frontline guy,
Exactly.
controlling the battlefield from there, this is exactly what the Arcane Archer is doing, but from a safe distance.
Yes.
He's molding the battle to a way that's advantageous to not only himself but the party.
Exactly.
One thing that really sticks out to me that I really enjoy about the Arcane Archer, and I think it's just I'm a sucker for being able to cast free magic, is you can either learn the Prestidigitation or the Druid Craft cantrip. And I will tell you, throughout any time I've played a spellcaster, Prestidigitation has been a game changer. I mean, you guys have seen some of the things I've done with Prestidigitation.
It's a fun spell.
It's a fun because you got so many different things you can do. It's not like the regular cantrips where it's like it does one thing, it does damage or
Multi-utility.
yeah. And I feel like it's a perfect fit for the fighter because that fighter is this Swiss Army knife of any kind of class.
Yeah.
And the Arcane Archer is just a perfect kind of fit with that because you've got not only the customization of getting attribute advancements or feats more frequently than other classes. If I'm not mistaken, they get that. But you've got all these different options to take for your arcane shot, and it's just I really enjoy the ability to customize and really hone in on who is your fighter going to be.
And it also opens up the door to be something different than most fighters would be originally, in that given the opportunity to have proficiency in both, either Arcana or Nature skill, which for the most part, fighters are not going to choose those two.
Right.
So it opened up more doors for the fighter to even be more versatile than it already is.
And versatility is the key. I think that's why you see a lot of even a dip into Rogue and Bard, just for the skill versatility. When you start allowing the combat-centric or healing-centric classes to get skill diversity, it really can enhance overall play. Much like you were saying with cantrip action, with something that normally just goes and beats things to death. How great is that?
Well,
Yeah.
it also adds into the role playing of it as well.
Exactly.
Because if you go Arcane or Arcana for your proficiency, and you're in a high magic world, then you're going to be useful in more than just damage.
Not your IQ has just been increased by 10 pretty much.
Yeah, because now if your DM says, hey, this has some kind of magical effect on it, well, can I make an Arcana check?
Exactly.
And you'd be proficient with that. Or Nature, if it's a campaign that is a lot of traveling, a lot of tracking, The nature skill can really come in handy there because, once again, fighters usually stay away from those two and choosing that proficiency.
Yeah, they stick with athletics, acrobatics,
Maybe intimidation.
persuasion,
Yeah, it's
sleight
hard
of
to
hand, stealth.
diversify.
Yeah, there's a very limited skill access set because, and you know, that's what, picking 2 out of 4,
Yeah,
and to, you know, like you're saying, you know, to get basically a free one, you know, that's a 50% increase in your skill set. That's impressive because all of these are balanced, and the fighter itself is, it does one thing, you know, it beats things to death. The way they're expanding these subclasses really enhance the versatility and gameplay, and it allows a lot more options for people who want to explore something other than, you know, Grog swing sword. You know, I mean, you really could get some impressive features coming out in, you know, in almost all of these subclasses.
And the crazy thing about Arcane Archer is that that's just the start of it. Because, of course, you get your martial archetype or your subclass at 3rd level, just like just about any other class in the game, unless you're a cleric or rogue, which can pretty much choose it at 1st level. When you hit 3rd level, you immediately gain 2 of your arcane shots, and we'll kind of rattle through them. We won't read everything word for word because it would take forever.
first one, banishing arrow.
Yeah, Michael talked about that just a few moments ago.
Phenomenal ability.
Yes.
To where you can literally send your big bad away for a round, and you have a chance to say, you know what, hey, drink this healing potion, cast that 5th level cure wounds or whatever. The beguiling arrow, to be able to sit there and say your barbarian or your frontline fighter or your paladin or cleric is getting wailed on by somebody, you shoot them. Not only do they take an extra 2d6 psychic damage, but you get to choose an ally that's within 30 feet of that target, and if they fail the wisdom saving throw tied to that, they are now charmed by that chosen ally.
I like the bursting arrow because, you know, how many times have you had a player or have been a player who's like, I want my arrows to explode.
Exactly. Hawkeye.
It turns
A pack of wolves.
Yeah, it turns your basic arrow that pierces one guy and, you know, will burst his spleen into, I'm hitting him and the 2 goons beside him, and they're taking 2d6 force damage each. And force damage is, out of the different damage types, that's one of the rare ones that you see any kind of resistances, let alone immunities to.
And certain things, you know, a swarm of shadows is coming. Okay, all they do, you know, they're draining your strength, which, you know, is bad. But now all of a sudden you've got the ability to say, okay, you know, and it's magic. They already get the ability to, you know, with their arcane shot ability, you're getting various spell-like abilities. But something that can, you know, blast everything. 10 feet is huge. It's like a mini fireball, basically.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but it's so good. Then you got Seeking Arrow, which kind of turns it from a regular I roll to hit to this is seeking him out and making it a dex save base. And if they fail the dex save, they take the full damage. If they fail it, or if they succeed it, they take half damage.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of like the curve shot.
Yeah.
You miss and you choose another target.
Yeah.
And roll again.
Well, see, Arcane Archer is very similar, like I said twice already, to Battlemaster in that
You said this like 4 times.
Yeah, well, I lose count because they are so similar in what they can do or what their goal is that they are controlling the flow of battle. Even with something like Enfeebling Arrow, to where you'll deal an extra 2d6 necrotic damage. If they fail the con save, the damage that they deal with its weapons attacks are halved until the start of its next turn. But it only gets better when you go down to Grasping Arrow and realize that when you hit with this, it takes an extra 2d6 poison damage. Speed is reduced by 10, and it takes 2d6 slashing damage for each time it moves 1 foot or more without teleporting. So if the DM's not paying attention, it could take extra damage. Or if the DM is paying attention, it could really lock that enemy down to where they may as well be stunned.
And as most people realize once you start playing, especially if you're doing an actual tabletop with miniatures on maps, regulated play, mobility is key.
Oh yeah.
If you can deny mobility, even reducing someone's movement by just 10 feet is phenomenal.
And being able to do damage for free.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it's like, it's basic. Each one of these corresponds to a magic spell of some sort or an ability. You know, grasping arrows, like
That's
having
my
the
favorite,
druids, you know, plants grab you in an entangling, you know, briar type patch. Banishing, you know, is like banishing. So all of these have phenomenal utility, and the fact that you can choose them at third level. Now, of course, the DC is going to be low, but hopefully you're not hitting anything higher, you know, than a CR of 4 or 5 at that level anyway. So at least you have a chance to be effective.
And if you're running something like, I haven't played it, so I'm not 100% sure, something like Waterdeep Dragon Heist, where you're possibly facing up against a lot of roguish types, a lot of sneaky types who like to hide behind stuff, you get into piercing arrow to where it straight up ignores anything they may be hiding behind. It'll pass harmlessly through objects, ignoring cover, and they have to make a dex save, or they'll take an extra d6 worth of damage from your attack. So you completely take away their cover. And when you're playing or going against somebody that has a high dex or likes to hide behind cover,
Using mobility.
Yeah, it just
negates
completely takes it away.
It's like a searing light coming down from on high. It's like, sorry, don't care what you're hiding behind. I'm gonna get you.
Well, that one's like the seeking arrow. It ignores 3/4 cover.
Yeah, the options that you can pick are very diverse, and each of them is very useful.
Yeah.
It does come with the disadvantage, though, of they can be sometimes situational. You know, if
Well, any class is situation.
any class is situational, you know, if you know that your DM isn't running a very tactical combat and it's more of just a hack and slash, and it's working for your group, maybe you don't necessarily need the seeking arrow to go around cover if your DM's not utilizing cover as much. But you know, bursting arrow, that's good no matter what.
Yeah, and the last one on the list is possibly my favorite, because I like, whenever I'm playing a character, no matter what class it is, I like to be able to control the battlefield, lock people down, keep them in a certain area, take movement speed away. The shadow arrow, to where you're doing an extra 2d6 psychic damage, but if they fail that wisdom save, they can't see past 5 foot.
What
They
a
are-
phenomenal ability to use on a magic user who's been blasting you with fireballs and lightning bolts. He's
Exactly.
blind now. How many? Mages don't make wisdom saves. So here you go. You have now, for a round, but I'm telling you, the last thing a mage needs is a round of being blind and letting everybody say, kill the blind guy.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is usually an Arcane Archer, if built to be an archer, is going to have an extremely high dex. So they're going to have that high modifier to their initiative, especially in the later levels, say level 10. Maybe they've got a 20 by now, so it's a +5 to their initiative, if not more. If you're at the top of the initiative count, and this guy's in the middle somewhere, not only is he blinded on the very first turn of initiative, if you're able to hit, but he can't hit anybody else
Exactly.
5 foot away
effect. Yep.
until the start of your next turn.
Which is a lifetime for a magic user.
Especially with most of them, let's be honest, most of them being glass cannons.
The dreaded glass cannons.
And the other thing with fighters who are the most feat-rich class, you know, anyway, then you're throwing in these. If you pick, as the feats come up, you know, a sharpshooter ability, phenomenal feat. You know, certainly as a fighting style, get that +2 damage out, because that +2 damage per shot.
I think the archery fighting style is +2 to hit.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the dueling is +2 to damage if you hold on.
Okay. Well, still, accuracy is important, and like you say, if you've got even a 16 dex, or you're doing 3 additional points every time you shoot that person, and you know, hopefully you don't miss.
Yeah.
Especially with something like sharpshooter, which allows you phenomenal range. Again, that whole mobility thing. If you can hit someone at 300 feet away, and they move 60 feet towards you, you shoot them at 240 feet away. They move. I mean, you're
There's ample opportunity over and over to keep taking pop shots at them, and maybe at that point they start taking cover. Oh well, seeking arrow.
You get all these special shots as they're coming up to you.
You become the guy that they don't want to approach.
Yeah.
Well, even in the subclass 4 Arcane Archer says it's mainly the elves that have become Arcane Archers.
Right.
And by that, if you happen to be at high elf, you could take the Fey teleportation feat, and you get a free Misty Step once without expending a spell slot. That's free mobility on a highly mobile class who can blind or cripple or stun or cause charm. It's extremely, extremely well balanced.
Yeah, the utility of this particular class is impressive, on top of the already unbelievable combat prowess of the base fighter to begin with.
And I'll tell you what else I like about this class is magic arrow at 7th level.
Yeah.
Whenever you fire a non-magical arrow from a short bow or long bow, you can make it magical for the purpose of overcoming resistances and immunity to non-magical attacks.
And that doesn't even take a bonus action. That's a freebie.
That
That's
is,
automatic.
your arrows are now magical without being magical.
That's goals right there. Nothing. I would be hard pressed to think of another ability that matches this in pure utility.
And don't forget,
Well, monks do get it at 6th level. with
Yeah,
the
they
fix.
get their.
don't
But
forget,
not at range.
But
don't
not at
forget
range.
also that the fighter, just for being a fighter, by 7th level would have 2 attacks per action.
Mhm.
And a feat that they could choose that
Yeah.
might. Yeah, it stacks so well. I mean, this is certainly something that
And
everyone
they've
who
got
wants to
action
play a
surge,
fighter
too.
should look at as an option just based on utility and party support.
Oh yeah, this would be one of those classes you kind of would have to plan it out.
It would be an extremely deadly class, not only because of what they can do, but because of the fact that at 7th level you get your arrows as to being an automatic magical attack, where stuff like Night Hag or anything like that, you're still going to be doing full damage.
Mhm.
But also the fact that just for being a fighter, if you're in the very rare 20th level game, even if it's a one-shot, you're getting 4 attacks per action.
Yeah.
With your action surges.
At 15th level, you get the Ever Ready Shot, which is it's a very true fighter class ability. Basically, it says if you start combat and you don't have any uses of this like fighter thing, this fighter
Right.
ability, you regain some. You regain 1 use of it.
Which that's the problem. They're kind of getting away from that now. They're basing a lot of these abilities. You're getting them based on your proficiency bonus in the newer classes coming out in the supplements. I don't know if they're going to retro back and allow that in some of these other classes, because a lot of them are only limited to 2 times for a long rest.
Yeah.
That's a limited utility right there. You've got to really pick and choose.
Yeah.
But the ability to, like you say, at a higher level to automatically get it back once is very, very important, because in some campaigns, the advantage that your dungeon master has is he's going to draw it out. So you've got to really, really be careful
Yeah.
and husband your abilities and decide when to do it.
Because originally in just the plain player's handbook, about the only class that was able to do anything if they were completely out of spell slots, their class features, or anything like that, was the sorcerer being able to spend those sorcerer points to get those spell slots back. But now, as they're adding these new subclasses for fighter and all the other classes that are available through D&D 5e, they're giving them more player-friendly attributes, to where it's like, I know this last hard fight you had, you used everything you got, and on the way back to town, you get ambushed by 5 bandits, and you it's really helpful to have this thing. So you
And
know
the
what?
bard dies. You know,
Yeah, on
from
initiative,
bandits.
bard always dies.
Yeah.
So when you roll your initiative, you'll get 1 back.
Now,
Do you that favor.
the advantage that this kind of hindsight that they've got, they're finessing the game balance so much better now. 4 classes that in the past have been kind of monodimensional. By the expansion into some of these subclasses and allowing these abilities to expand is really good. And I think anytime you can get something back for free on a new encounter is great. Going back retro just a little bit, what we did kind of skip over was a curving shot, also at 7th level, which combined with the magic arrow, which makes your arrow magic. The curving shot, if you're firing a magic arrow, which you happen to get for free at the same level, if you miss with the curving shot, you can attack another opponent within 60 feet.
Yeah.
So that's like, I missed, okay, I get to shoot somebody else. That's
Say the guy
pretty
behind him
phenomenal.
will shoot him.
Yeah. It's like, oh, your armor class is really high? Well, what about that guy in hide armor?
Exactly.
So that's one of the things that this is a new player can do a lot of damage, and an experienced player can do a whole lot of damage.
So we've talked about the Arcane Archer. What's the next one in Xanathar's?
Cavalier is the next one. And this is the subclass that will make you ask the question, can I bring a horse into a dungeon?
Yeah.
You can, not advisable.
I wouldn't recommend it.
The horse won't like it.
Now,
You probably won't like it.
you could go He-Man and ride a battle cat into a dungeon.
That is
Not
true.
impossible.
Not impossible. Not probable.
I know a certain artificer that can make some armor for it.
Actually, depending on the campaign, if you're in like an Eberron-based campaign, there being an actual halfling on a dinosaur, being a cavalier, could be
And
pretty
there's
darn fun.
mechanical mounts
Oh, yeah.
and stuff like that in Evernote.
You know, when it comes to like mounts, it depends on what the setting is. You know, what the world's like, where you're going. You know, are you dungeon crawling like every single or every other session? Then maybe a mount's not the best idea, unless you got a druid who can wild shape.
Yeah.
I volunteer.
When you choose the Cavalier subclass, it's once again like the Arcane Archer. It's opening up a door into something that the fighter in and of itself wouldn't usually. They wouldn't take that path normally. I don't believe.
It's a subclass that you wouldn't see anywhere else.
It
Yeah,
opens
I mean-
up the door, like with how Arcane Archer did, with some proficiencies or even languages that the fighter probably wouldn't take regularly.
Yeah.
You know, animal handling, of course, history, insight, performance, or persuasion.
I think this is the one subclass of the fighters that we have available to us that gives the player the option to roleplay their character to be to where they don't have to just be competent in combat. They can be competent elsewhere too,
Yeah, it's
in the
got a-
social interactions
got
and
a
the nature
lot of
interactions. It's got a lot of role playing in it, and it's possibly, as far as role playing goes, one of the deeper subclasses.
Well, you could take the face of the party away from the bard.
Which is interesting. A fighter being the face of a party, it's almost counterintuitive, and yet the Cavalier is actually an ideal candidate for that role.
Well, when you think of Cavalier, Dwayne Johnson,
Yeah.
highly charismatic, always buffed in the movies to where he can never be harmed.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, he is a D&D Cavalier fighter.
You are the knight in shining armor as a cavalier.
Yeah, everyone loves a good knight, you know? The tried and true paragon of honor and
Virtue.
chivalry. And King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah.
How many stories have we had of that? How many movies have they made?
At least 2.
They've made
I've
like
seen-
millions of
I've seen
dollars
about
just based
10.
off of.
And the only one
King
that was
Arthur.
really any good was Merlin from BBC.
That was a good one.
Everyone's got their opinions.
Well,
I
Kirsten's
thought
good
A
on
Knight's
Netflix.
Tale was entertaining.
It wasn't that bad.
That was a great movie.
That was a very good movie.
And you folks may not have spent much time with this, but back when I was a young lad, there was a Disney animated movie.
Sword in the Stone is
Sword
one
in
of
the
the
Stone,
greatest movies ever.
Phenomenal,
Yes.
phenomenal for, especially for someone who's young and just getting into the kind of sword and sorcery fantasy, and transitioning out of fairy tales into a more adult kind of thing. Those are great. Some great stuff.
And this subclass will probably be extremely attractive to them because of what they can do and get so close to that fantasy level that they grew up on watching those Disney movies like Sword in the Stone.
And you're likely to have a Merlin with you.
Very likely. But even just beginning at third level, if you do have a mount, if for some reason you get thrown off of your mount or knocked off,
You have advantage.
you have advantage on that saving throw to just straight up avoid falling off of your mount. Or if you fall no more than 10 feet, you can land on your feet and you're not incapacitated.
If you fall off your mount.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you fall off your mount.
And the supplementability of being able to only spend 5 feet of movement to either jump on or off your horse is pretty effective. Again, mobility.
It goes
Ride
into-
up, jump off your horse, continue moving, and I mean it's pretty scary. Pretty scary.
I would want to ride up with a lance, preferably if I
Go
did that.
jousting.
Just joust everybody.
Or if you wanted to be that frontline guy, ride up on the horse. The horse doesn't even stop. You step off,
Yeah.
deal with whatever's in front of you, and call the horse back, and you ride off into the sunset.
It's like
victorious.
the cops in the movies. They spin the car around. He just steps out the door and he keeps going.
Now I just want to see a Cavalier fighter drift his horse in a dungeon.
That would be perfect.
Land a critical hit on the big bad evil guy. I think I would quit being a DM forever if that happened to me.
I thought you was going to quit the other day.
Y'all about to make me quit. Anyways, that's not the topic of this story.
But the other advantage, again, the Cavalier really is kind of front-loaded on a lot of stuff. We already talked about the bonus proficiency access. The Born to the Saddle, really good. Unwavering Mark. Wow. Look at this is just phenomenal.
This is basically the compelled duel spell without having to cast a spell.
And exactly, the pseudo spell in a fighter, no less. Wow.
Well, not only that, but it's bringing into this idea that the Cavalier is the frontline guy who will buff his party around him. Maybe not with magic, but with the ability to have every attack made with disadvantage towards them.
Kind of like a bard does.
Yeah, exactly. It's just possibly could be role played and played as one of the most selfless beings to walk the earth.
I view it more as like a honor bound, like, you are my opponent and we are fighting. Forget everything else around. This is an honor fight.
He's a non-magical paladin.
Yeah.
But think of the synergy with the Paladin.
Oh, yeah.
Compelled duel and this. Everybody's at disadvantage on the front line. Those two will clean house.
Oh, yeah. I just need the cavalry fighter who drifted on the big bad evil guy to team up with his bro paladin.
Or even better yet, let's just say you're playing a Cavalier in an evil campaign. For some reason, unbeknownst to anybody, you're a bad guy, you're a Cavalier, and you happen to get your hands on a Nightmare.
Oh.
How cool would that be?
Don't
Could
even
be
get
the
started
Black
on
Knight.
that.
It would be absolutely amazing to be able to see that happen, or even if you're the one that's playing that, to be able to play and the Nightmare in itself, not having to run off to where you don't lose your mount, to be able to sit there and fight alongside you.
Mhm.
What do you guys think about the warding maneuver, where you can roll a d8 as a reaction if you, your mount, or another creature nearby you that's like within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack? You can roll a d8 as a reaction if you're wielding a melee weapon or a shield, and add that to the target's AC against the attack.
Phenomenal body guarding ability, and coming in at 7th level like it does, it's really a very timely thing, and that is an advantage, specifically if you've got somebody up front who is a combination like frontline and spellcaster, but doesn't necessarily have a full armor ability. I'm thinking more like a warlock or perhaps
like X-Blade or something.
yeah, something like that. This is very potent.
Not only that, but if the attack still hits, they get resistance to that damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
This feels like it almost feels like, if you took the protection fighting style
Exactly.
at first level, you no longer need that.
Well, it's like a College of Swords bard being able to share his abilities with somebody else, being able to roll that die and get that added to the AC, but instead of it being at certain levels of D6, at 7th level, it's a D8. Now, let's be honest, the average roll is about a 5, and a lot of times you'll land on that 1 or 2, but those few times you get a 6, 7, or 8, it's better than a shield spell.
But think about the warding maneuver alongside a barbarian. If they get hit, even with the warding maneuver, they've already got resistance to most damages, and then they get even more.
Now, the advantage of this, which I like on a lot of these abilities, the Unwavering Mark is based on your strength modifier. The warding maneuver is based on your constitution. These two things, much better than just 2 times per long rest.
Yeah.
Because these are your 2 prime abilities. They're going to be +3, +4, +5 throughout the campaign. The amount of times you can use these, and it's great. I mean, that really totally is synergistic, enhances the already phenomenal fighting ability of already the best melee class in the game.
Yeah, definitely. Again, we have another ability that seems to kind of take over something that you can already kind of do. Hold the line at 10th level. Creatures provoke an opportunity attack from you when they move 5 feet or more while within your reach. So they could sidestep you, and you still get an opportunity attack. And at the end, if you hit with it, the target's speed is reduced to 0 until the end of the current turn.
Totally shut down a charge, stopping people from moving through your line. Mobility is key in combat. This is a phenomenal ability.
It's the Sentinel feat without the provoking opportunity attacks, even if they disengage.
It's literally the Sentinel feat without having to spend that feat for that. Even if, say you needed an ability score improvement, and you're like, well, I'm really hoping that I can get an ability score improvement because I'm not exactly happy with where my strength and my con are at. I'd like to give them both a +1 because that'll take me from a +3 to a +4. Mm-hmm. But you can just look ahead and say, you know what, in a couple levels, I'll get a free Sentinel.
Yeah.
That it's technically better than Sentinel.
And because it's a defensive ability, it's not limited by 2 times per rest or based on a stat. This is every time someone is foolish enough to try and slip past you and go after someone behind you or try and move into your 6, your blind spot, you have the option of showing them how bad an idea that is, that they've just taken on the most powerful melee class, and you get a free attack.
It's pretty impressive, honestly. The only thing about it is, you don't get the if they disengage, you can't hit them with it.
Yeah, now this is going to be a bit out there, and obviously this wouldn't happen until higher levels, but you would have this available to you over Hold the Line. Is it, say you are this Cavalier fighter and you're facing some kind of adult black dragon. You are right up there with it. There is no size listed on Hold the Line to where if it tries to fly away from you, you hit it and it falls back down to the ground and its speed becomes 0.
Yep.
Right.
You can literally hold one of the most dangerous creatures in D&D still for everybody to pound on.
Yeah, it does not say ground movement speed. It stops swimming. It stops flying. It stops tunneling. It stops everything.
Any kind of movement is now null and void.
Which is pretty potent.
Those pesky flyers that try to get away when they think that they're about to lose the battle, as long as you can hit them, they're screwed.
I know you hate Celestials.
We won't get into that. Not in this episode.
That's a long conversation.
It's a long conversation.
But going up into 15th level,
Ferocious Charger.
yes.
Here we have the Cavalier taking. It feels like when they look at the Cavalier, they're like, "What's some good feats or abilities that everyone seems to take? Sentinel, protection,
Tough.
Charger ability,
Tough usually to try and give themselves a bigger health.
What if we just made that into a subclass?
Yeah.
Because here you have an ability where you can run down your foes, whether you're mounted or not. You can straight up joust somebody on foot. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line right before an attack on a creature and you hit with the attack, they need to make a strength saving throw or be knocked prone. You can only use this feature once per turn.
But that is
But no
per turn.
limit.
Once
No
per
limit.
turn, yeah.
Once per turn.
Now, say, once again, 15th level, you've got a 20 in your strength, maybe more if you're lucky to get a Belt of Hill Giant strength or anything like that. That's what's going to be the proficiency modifier at 15, +4 or +3.
At 15 with the Hill Giant,
Proficiency modifier at 15th level is +4.
I think
Four.
Plus
I believe.
5.
I'm pretty sure, I think it's +5. Don't quote me on that.
Well, just think of this. You have a 20 in your... Yeah, we'll do a little research and get back to you on that. You have a 20 in your strength, so that's 8 plus 5, plus another 5 possibly for your proficiency bonus. That is a DC 18 to be kept from not prone.
And prone is a very powerful condition.
Yes, because if they're low on the... It is 5. If they're low on the initiative count, which at all D&D is nothing but what comes down to roll after roll.
Mhm.
If the enemy that you're targeting is low on the initiative count, any other kind of melee user that can get up there is going to have advantage on the attack against them.
Well, that's the prone again. We're talking mobility. You've knocked someone down. They are now easier to attack at 5 feet, and they have to spend half their movement to stand up,
I think
unless they have some ability like a monk-like ability where they can just pop up. But the majority of creatures, monsters, and other encounters, you have basically slapped them down to the canvas, and you're standing over them where you and your friends can have a fun party beating the heck out of them.
and at this point you have not one but 2 extra attacks. You spend that first, action, charge at them. They're knocked prone. You now have 2 extra attacks with advantage against them.
Or maybe it's 2 big bad guys standing there, maybe twin brothers of a Dark Order or whatever, and they're 15 feet apart and you're 10 foot away. Charge, knock one down, attack, and then charge the other and knock him down too. Now both are prone. It opens up a whole new world to combat.
Well, you could hold the line after charge.
Exactly.
They
But
ain't getting away from you.
the class really rounds itself out, and this next ability or class feature that you get at 18th level. Now, once again, most campaigns unfortunately do not get this high level, and I wish most of them did. Is that at 18th level with Vigilant Defender, you respond to danger with extraordinary vigilance. In combat, you get a special reaction that you can take once on every creature's turn except your turn. You can use it to only make an opportunity attack. You can't use it on the same turn that you use your normal reaction. But if you're in a fight, say, with 6 bandits, how many opportunity attacks do you get?
It's great the swarm effect,
You're basically being a tornado sitting in
They
you
took the trait you'll see in NPCs in stat blocks called reactive,
the middle.
where you can take reaction every turn, and they kind of they've kind of filed it down so it's not too overpowered, and says you can now make an opportunity attack every turn. It doesn't matter who's walking past you. If they enter your reach and they move 5 feet while still being in your reach, yeah, swing them. They can't move.
Yeah, and I was about to say, like you just mentioned, couple that in with hold the line, you can completely lock down. If you run into the middle of 3 or 4 people, you can completely lock down maybe half or more than half of the enemies in front of you.
You're literally holding the line.
Yes.
It's and I think because of the power of the ability, putting it up at 18th level is a good balancing effect.
Oh,
yeah.
If you acquired that at 10th level, that would be you want to annoy a dungeon master boy.
Oh yeah, it's just like we were talking about in the first episode or the last episode. Fighters in and of themselves seem pretty broken. They're well balanced for what they can do. They're very well balanced for what they can do. But when you open up the doors for them to be able to be proficient and do other things well, it just makes this class fill that gap even more. To where it's like, hey, you know what? Instead of absolutely having to have, say, a cleric that knows this certain spell, well, we don't have to have that anymore. We don't have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
It opens up not only for you to be able to do more, but it gives the people that you're playing with the opportunity to say, you know what? I don't have to stick to that niche now.
Yeah.
I can go off on a tangent for a little while, and I can have fun.
Cavalier is crazy. They really did take good feats, good traits, and said, let's make it into a subclass that works on holding down an enemy or a group of enemies. Let's get into the samurai next. The samurai, to me, it doesn't. When I first read about the samurai, I was picturing. The first thing that came to my mind was the movie The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. And when I was kind of reading through the samurai, I was like, this doesn't feel too much like a samurai. But
A cinematic samurai.
Yeah, but it is definitely a good subclass nonetheless. This is a subclass that says, I'm not dying just yet.
Yeah.
And, you combine that with the half-orc race, where, you got the relentless endurance. You get knocked to 0, you come back up at 1. I mean, it's just crazy. Being unkillable in a D&D game, that's how you win fights.
And even with 1 hit point,
Oh,
a
yeah.
high-level fighter swinging 4 or 5 times with a 20 strength, with all the abilities they have, you're not down until you're down, and it's just punishing to be that potent even when you're on death's door. That is just another great way to really annoy your dungeon master.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and it is another way to where you can once again roleplay that samurai, to where they will go out in a blaze of glory, fighting for honor of maybe their party or their family or their country or whatever kind of faction they stand for. To stand there at 1 health, while many fighters may be like, "Hey, I need a healing potion," or maybe they disengage and come back and receive a healing potion or a healing spell. This
isn't-
guy's going to sit there and dish out damage as long as he possibly can.
This isn't your standard mercenary guy.
No,
This is a guy who's got beliefs. This is a guy who has willpower.
he has a code.
He's got dedication.
Well, he's one that can go up and stand alone while the rest of the party's being healed.
Yeah.
But even at the lowest level, bringing in the fighting spirit ability at 3rd level, anytime you get advantage on your attacks and you are a melee-based character, that is great stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It puts the numbers distinctly. Temporary hit points, that is a game changer too. That's that's an ablative shield around you that
Yeah.
doesn't need to be healed.
Yeah, and it technically isn't. But when you think about it, that temporary hit points is just another way of you can self-heal almost. While your health pool isn't technically going up, you're giving yourself that buffer.
Yeah.
To heal yourself for 5 points that at the end probably won't even matter.
And that scales.
Yeah.
Yes.
It goes up 5 more points at 10th level, 5 more points at 15th level. So it scales perfectly as you are gaining levels. It works out, really well synergistically with the role that you're playing.
Well, don't forget that not only would they have the fighting spirit to where they could get that 5 temporary hit points that it scales with their level, but you also have, because of being a fighter, second wind.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
So to be able to do a technical double self-heal within 2 turns is amazing.
Well, the synergy is phenomenal on this class, without a doubt.
Oh yeah. This class is meant to I'm to say I'm not done yet with this fight.
You're going to take damage, but you're going to take damage for a long time.
Yeah, this is. It feels like they took the endurance of a barbarian minus all the rage and anger issues,
And gave it advantage.
and they're like, forget like doing extra damage. Here's some advantage.
And 5 temporary hit points.
Yeah, there's that endurance. One of the things that I do kind of like about the samurai, and you see it in these other classes, is the bonus proficiencies.
You got to love a saving throw bonus. I mean, having 3 saving throws instead of the standard 2, especially on one of the most critical ones.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, the basic ability is okay. It gives you a little bit more face time, but the bonus proficiency is icing on the cake. That is worth. It's just phenomenal.
What are you looking at again?
The elegant courtier.
Oh, I was looking at where the bonus proficiency where you gain history, insight, performance, or persuasion.
Oh, at the very inception.
Yeah.
Of,
Well,
third level.
even with that, they both tie in together so well because once again, it's not only opening the door to be able to role play, but it's giving that character more opportunity to be able to be useful in more places than just combat.
Yeah, you get another face of the party.
Yeah. Or maybe the one that's well studied,
Yeah.
to where if nobody else in the party for some reason is any good at history, if something comes up and something needs to be recalled, it's like, this elder god that did this 250 years ago. Hey, I know about that.
Yeah, there was this war with the Elder God. They did this.
I really do like the elegant courtier ability where, let's say you're multi-classing and you start off as a class that already has wisdom saving throw proficiencies. This ability says if you already have that proficiency, you can gain intelligence or charisma saving throws.
Yeah.
It's really a thing where it's like, hey, we're going to still reward you, and we're not going to, because things don't stack in D&D.
Right.
And this is basically saying like, yeah, it's not going to stack, but we're going to give you something else. You don't
Options.
Yeah, you still gain even though you start off with what is originally giving you.
Well, it's just like the other 2 subclasses that we've talked about today. When you hit 10th level and get Tireless Spirit, when you roll initiative and you don't have any more uses of Fighting Spirit or Mating, you regain 1 use. So once again, if you finish that big fight, you're on your way back to town and something pops up, you still have at least 1 use after rolling your initiative.
Yeah.
But the advantage on this, because of, I guess, balance, the Tireless Spirit shows it at 10th level. When you're the Arcane Archer, you've got to wait to 15th level to get that free shot. So
Yeah.
this is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
This is the much better getting this at 10th level.
Oh yeah, definitely. Rapid Strike though, at 15th level, this is that anime swordsman striking you with multiple attacks, and you're sliced into pieces before you know it. If you have advantage on an attack roll against one of your targets, you can forego that advantage and make an additional weapon attack. Granted, it's only once per turn, but that is, that's potentially more damage.
Well, at 15th level, you're likely to be causing quite an extensive amount of
And you've already
damage.
got a lot of attacks anyways, and
And
add
if-
another one.
If you've got a good to hit,
Yeah.
say you've got a +9 because of your strength modifier, and you bonus action surge, that's 9 attacks in 1 turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's you get the
No,
3,
I'm sorry. That'd be
7.
7 attacks in 1 turn. I had to confuse with 20th level.
And you're doing that with the most efficient melee class in the game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you are literally going to punish them every single time you swing. There's a good chance that the law of averages say unless you're going up against some insanely potent thing, you are going to be dealing a huge amount of damage on a round like that. Now that's given that's going to be just 1 round, but as we say, as you tier that up into the higher levels, you might do that twice. You could might be able to do something similar, doing multiple attacks in 3 rounds. You might get off 20 attacks.
What I really like about it is, people who are chasing advantage, the main purpose is to be more likely to hit, but, when you roll advantage, you're really open for that crit.
Yeah.
Because you want to get as powerful as you can. This basically makes it easier to do the same thing as a crit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're accurate enough, if your to hit modifier is high enough, then you're more likely to do double damage per se.
And it's not even a death by 1,000 cuts. It's hard damage every hit.
Yeah.
Likely.
And what makes that so deadly is starting at 18th level, the strength before death. Whenever you take enough damage that reduces you to 0 but doesn't outright kill you, you get an extra turn immediately following. Yeah. And by 18th level, you've got your 3 attacks. You spend your bonus action to give yourself advantage and make 4 instead.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe even bonus action surge.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not dead yet. Don't underestimate me.
It could be one of those moments of a literal last stand to where you may be trying to kill me and I may die, but I will take you with me.
Yeah.
This really is this adds the moment where...
That's the coup de grace.
Yeah. This could be used in a very epic, very great narrative role play experience, with the party.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and it comes down to a lot of times there is a critical point in a combat where it's them or you.
Mm-hmm.
You could be fighting a dragon or fighting, the other side's champion or something like that. And if it's balanced, you're all going to be, hurting each other pretty severely. A lot of times, especially if you've got a group against, 1 or 2 champions, they're going to be dealing a lot more damage. But here you go, you've got your hero samurai on the front line. He's dishing it out every single round. He's chopping pieces off of everything around him. And yet he is taking damage. And yet here it is, you think, uh-oh, I'm going down. But deep within inside, he pulls that spirit out and says, not today, Death, not today.
That's one of them. If you've got a good enough imagination, you'll have chills after a big fight.
Yeah, because when you think about this specific ability alone, the first thing that comes to mind for me is Thorn Oakenshield in the Hobbit.
Yeah.
Where he moves his own sword out of the way and gets stabbed fatally, to where he can kill the big bad orc.
Yeah.
To where that threat's no longer there, and while it ends up costing him his life, we get a beautiful moment between him and Bilbo, and it opens up that door to be able to role play even deeper, especially if this character has been a big impact to the party as to how they've developed as a group overall over the past however many months, years that they've been traveling together across this epic adventure. And it could be especially if it was the BBEG he was facing,
right?
It could be a beautiful ending for an amazing character.
Man, this makes me want to make a character get emotionally invested in the story and just have him die.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean
that could be arranged.
Yeah.
Don't kill my character.
No, I won't. Not
That's
yet.
not all it's cracked up to be.
But I think the question right now, especially because we got 2 of you with us today, we've still got 3 more subclasses to go to in the next episode that's come out of Arcana in the past probably year or so, or maybe 2 years.
I can't remember the exact time.
It hasn't been long.
I think one of them comes from the Sword Coast Adventure.
I'm looking forward to going through the Runic Night.
Though the Rune Knight.
Yeah.
But out of the 6 that we've talked about last week and this week, you've got your champion, the Battle Master, and the Eldritch Knight, and then you've got the Xanathars with Arcane Archer, Cavalier, and Samurai. Of your opinion, and completely leaving out party combos, what do you believe as an overall, not just in combat, but playability, ease of play, and role-playing satisfaction, do you believe, which would be the most satisfying to you?
I have to say Samurai. Because the RP ability for that last stand, and possibly just you're dead with the sword in your heart, and you turn around and chop that guy's head off,
Yeah.
and then you fall over. It something like that. Now the Cavalier would be a lot of fun. Just rush into battle and hold everybody back, but I'd have to go Samurai.
When it comes down to the combat prowess, it's really hard to beat the three subclasses of champion because of their extra ways to crit.
Mm-hmm.
The Battle Master and the Arcane Archer, because both of them can control the flow of battle so easily.
Yeah.
But as a role-playing standpoint, because I like to role-play, I also like to be handy in combat. I don't have to be the absolute best. When it comes down to that, I also like to protect those that are around me. So I'm kind of split between the Cavalier and the Samurai. Now, I will always have a special place in my heart for the Eldritch Knight. Because giving a class that has otherwise no ability to cast any spells to say, you know what? Have a lightning bolt.
Get some magic for you.
You keep Misty stepping away from me, you little bastard. Here's a lightning bolt. But to sit there and say, you know, I want to be able to be the guy that protects the rest of my party, or like you said, to have that massive character arc towards the end of the story and that epic storyline that's been going on for however long. The Cavalier and the Samurai are probably my two favorites as far as the playability and the play style that I like to run.
I would like to play a Cavalier, not to be like, you know, defending the party. Just he's searching for fame and glory, you know? He is like saying like, you know, no, you are fighting me. You forget about them. This is my fight. This is my glory. I'm going to kill you.
He is Sir Lancelot.
Yeah. And I could see multi-class combine that with a Paladin Oath of Vengeance.
Yes.
Where they get that, you know, single targeting on like a specific person being like, you're my target. You're the victim. You are the target of my vengeance. I think it'd be a real interesting multi-class, but, you know, I just got to have that invested character who dies a dramatic and very narrative death before I can introduce him.
I'm kind of going against the consensus here because I honestly think, as far as for initial class inception, bringing the subclass in at 3rd level, especially with the new feats available and things, I am a huge fan of the Battle Master as far as its scalability, its unbelievable ability to use its special attacks because of the diversity. I mean, there are more abilities that a Battle Master can do than any other of these classes that have their little special niches. He can do anything from offense to defense, you know, tripping, you know, rallying, you know, his friends. The scalability of the die, the random die that's used, it goes up, you know, very steadily. And I think personally, properly used, partly because of the mobility or the denial of mobility to your opponents, or bringing your friends over into a combat when they may have been 30 feet away. You're like, oh man, if I was just over there to help. Hey, by the way, hey, yo, Joe, come over here and help me beat the heck out of this thing. I really think properly played with the correct, you know, choice of you know, options you have, a Battle Master can be a game changer because of the synergy with other classes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And what's beautiful is, like we were talking about earlier, they gave the option for somebody that doesn't like to be right there in the middle of a fight. You can do something similar with the Arcane Archer to be able to control that battle flow from a distance. So I get what you're saying. So both of those subclasses are really well meshed together.
Well, I think you can kind of boil down the subclasses we covered. You know, combat is there for the champion to win.
Yep.
Combat is there for the Battle Master to control.
Mm-hmm.
Combat is there for the Eldritch Knight to cast. Combat is there for the Arcane Archer to modify. combat is there for the Cavalier to hold, and combat is there for the samurai to stand.
Yeah, and when you go into the social interactions of a campaign, along with the role playing aspect of it, but forget the NPCs just between player and player. There's so many diverse things that you can do with each subclass, especially with these newer subclasses, giving you the proficiencies in these skills that you otherwise probably wouldn't get.
Yeah.
It all depends, of course, on which race you choose, but just as a class in a whole, it's taking, once again, a class that was well-rounded to begin with and just smoothing the edges.
You could definitely have an entire party full of all fighters, all
Exactly.
different subclasses, and there would not be a single character who would be the exact same as the other.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's true.
And I think if you can do that with any class with the subclasses, and there's not a single two characters who are, the same,
Right. No
Then-
clones.
you've done a good job on making a subclass.
Oh yeah.
And we'll eventually get into that with the bards as well.
Now
Because they're not quite as diverse in their subclasses, but you could still run a full bard party and be maybe not as well off, but pretty close.
Yeah,
It's just a rock band. You get a bunch of groupies.
Oh, yeah.
it is rough.
If you wanted to make a ton of money as a party, go all bard. It's there. Go on tour.
If you want to win a lot of fights, though, go all fighter.
You could even bring in a new genre of music and call yourself the Needles.
I think that covers it for the subclasses today. Eric and Michael, thank you for coming on and sharing your perspective and your knowledge of the game, and really just
It makes
being
me
here.
want to play a fighter. I've played one fighter.
Right. I want to play a fighter now too.
I've
But
never
it
played
was-
one.
It was a gunslinger from the Unearthed Arcana.
From Juan Jane.
Juan Jane.
That was
There you go.
years ago.
That was a long time ago.
Well, I thank you for the opportunity to discuss this, and I look forward to hearing the rest of your content, because it sounds like between your experience and your obvious enthusiasm for the game, this is going to be quite an interesting series of discussions you've had.
Yeah, and the thing is especially that you probably know because you've been seasoned, you've been playing since first edition,
Yeah.
is that we're still learning.
I
So
started.
we're going to be
I started with. I had one game of 3.5, and then when I got into it at school, 5th edition came out, and so I was excited to see there's a warlock class. I didn't know about this. What's a tiefling and a dragonborn?
Yeah, and it's just like we're going to be learning alongside anybody that happens to listen to this, just as much as they may be learning from any kind of ramblings that we go off on. And it's like we said last week, we're not forcing any kind of opinion on you. You can agree with it, you can disagree with it. You can think we're stupid for all we care for the classes and subclasses that we prefer. Because at the end of the day, D&D is all about customization to you and you alone.
And at the end of the day, at all the critical points, it's just theoretical.